Good, how are you?
Good timing. I just walked in the house. So what's up? What's like to talk about?
Well, we're talking about a new CD that's out.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that rumor.
But first of all, how you doing, by the way, with this whole COVID thing? Everything cool out there?
COVID, for me, I mean, everybody was saying like Dokken's the only band that played in America in the last 3 months, and it's true. We did 3 shows, during COVID. And we did Arkansas, Virginia, Wisconsin. We did some shows, but, everybody gave Great White shit for playing, and I said, that's bullshit. Great White does not need to apologize for showing up for a contracted show. That's the promoter.
That's right.
But our shows, they check. I go, why is Great White on the internet apologizing? I'm like, don't fucking apologize for shit, dude. You got contracted, you showed up, you did the show, end of story.
And how were the shows attendance-wise?
But ours was, these people are a little more on top of it. They, one of them was the Dr. Pepper amusement park, and they did temperature checking,
Yeah.
as you walked in, and mass. It was a 5,000-seater outdoors on the lawn, and they only allowed 2,500 people in, which they packed it out. And, I looked out in the audience, and everybody was, behaving themselves, They were all spread out, 8 feet. So
Well, that's awesome.
it worked out okay, except for the first 3 rows, which pissed me off. The people in the front of the stage, which was still 10 feet away, nobody was wearing a mask.
No way.
I'm like, man, you guys are knuckleheads, I guess the younger people, I don't know, some young people think I'm impervious. I won't get it. I'm young and I'm strong and I will never get it. So
Not true.
we did the show, and that was in Arkansas. And then, sorry, but I'm making racket. And then we went to Virginia, same thing. 2,000 people, social distancing, everything was fine. But the people in the first, 4 rows, on the stage were not wearing masks. Some were. But most of them were. I just didn't get it. I guess people just don't take it serious,
Well, that's it. That's the problem. And that's why it's not going to end for a long time.
No, I remember 2 weeks ago, Dr. Fauci, who's the guy, he said, and I believe him, he said, if everybody wore a mask for 2 months, we'd have this under control. It'd go away.
Yeah.
6 months. If everybody. But when you got the fraternities and the frat houses and the college parties, then you got the idiots marching, down the street in Washington, 8,000 people about George Floyd, and you see the footage, and no one's wearing a mask.
Exactly.
Like, really?
Yeah.
So you're protesting against George Floyd. We understand it was a terrible thing that happened, but now you're risking hundreds of people's lives of dying. That pissed me off.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, it's never going to end, I think, sometimes.
I've been calling this year the apocalypse year, Between my bad surgery and my hand being paralyzed and COVID and the election and all this protesting, I'm like, man, it's been a crazy-ass year. And thank God that, as everybody knows now, I found these old tapes, and we couldn't finish the studio album because my right hand's paralyzed, so I can't finish the songs right now. We'll see what happens with that, but I found these old tapes because, like everybody, when you got COVID and you're self-exiled to your home, the best thing to do is go out and do spring cleaning.
Darn right.
Clean your shit out of your garage after 30 years,
And that was just lying around, and you said, what the hell, let's do it.
I didn't understand. I was like, this is tape. And, nobody records on tape anymore.
No.
It's all Pro Tools or digital. Before Pro Tools, it was ADAT, D88s, all digital. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I assumed all my analog tapes, which I did have possession of 20 years, all are masters. But I was paying the $800 a month storage fees. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't own these tapes. Why am I paying? So I called Warner Brothers and I said, come get your tapes and you pay for it. Why am I paying $800 a month to store your masters? I don't own them. So they took them all away. How these 4 tapes ended up in my garage, I have no clue.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even clean my garage, but I have a 64 convertible Stingray Corvette that I bought in the auction. And, you know, I live up in Bended Canyon, a lot of trees and bird poop and, you know, and leaf sap. And I'm like, I can't leave my Corvette, my 64 Vet, sitting out underneath these trees. So I had to clean up the garage to make room for my Vet to fit in the garage. And that's what I did. And, I mean, literally at the end, it's always kind of funny, you know, you store all your shit over 20 years, you don't even know what's in there. And I hired a bunch of guys in a big truck. And the joke was, I probably threw away 90% of everything that was in there.
What else was in there, though? Was there any other stuff from the
now,
old days?
No. It's just amplifiers and broken speakers and reverb units that are antiquated and, you know, 50 feet of cable from my old recording studio that's antiquated. And, you know, so I just, towards the end, you know, I have shelves in my garage. I saw this, what do you want to call it, a plastic bin, you know.
Right.
And I opened it up, and there were the tapes. Now I went, holy shit. But then I could see the notes, you know, the tracking sheets. And it said, Michael Wagner, Hamburg, 1979. The one said, Drake Levin, 1978, Media Yard, down the beach. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit? So I thought for shits and giggles, I would go to a studio. And let me tell you, when you go to, you know, try to find a studio these days that has an old analog machine, it ain't easy. They don't have them.
No, they don't exist.
No, it's all Pro Tools, man. People are doing albums in their basement, you know, in their garage.
Yep.
So I found a studio, and I had to bake them, because I figured it'd been 35 years since they've been played. When I opened the box, no bullshit. I mean, there was mold and white fuzzy stuff on the tape. I was like, oh, shit. You know, they were moldy. So we baked them in a convection oven for 3 hours, and my engineer said, you know, Don, you're going to get like 2 shots at this. We're going to put the tape up, run the digital. It might play, it might not. If it does play, you're not going to be able to play it over and over again. You're going to get 2 shots at this, and that tape's just going to fucking unravel.
And you got
it. That's what happened. We got 2 shots. There were 6 other songs. One of them started to play, and I remember it was called Sheila. And it started to play, and it just fell apart.
Damn.
So at least we came up with 11 songs that were salvageable. Some of the songs have been put out before on the internet, like bootlegs and bootleg albums, back on the streets, and illegal copies of my demos. Everybody and their mother and said, "Do you have a good copy of this song, or this song, or this song?" And I just found the best copies I could find and remastered them and fixed them up. There were 5 songs that had drum machine on them, and, you know, it sounded like shit, you know. Nobody wants you to listen to a drum machine. So, because they were demos, boss. So I called BJ, my drummer, and I said, I'm going to send you a file. Why don't you put some real drums on this and bring it to life and put some pizzazz on it? And he did. And so he put real drums on it, and 3 of the songs didn't have any solos. And so John put a couple solos on the tracks, and here we have it, the lost songs, you know.
Pretty incredible to think that was 40 years ago, eh?
Hey, that's weird, because I'm only 32, so it doesn't make any sense.
How does that work? Right.
I don't know. I was like, oh, what's this? When I was 12. This is weird. So, you know, and I remember it was a trip down memory lane to, you know, to go, oh, I remember that song. I remember that song. You know, a lot of these songs I just didn't remember. And there's this one song they're putting out on YouTube next week called Hit and Run. It seems record company really loves that song. And I had forgotten all about that. and there was a couple versions on YouTube. They just sounded horrible. So I called Juan Crucier, because Juan was in the band for 3 years on my German tours. And I had to call Juan and said, you remember this song called Hit and Run? And is it, do you remember this song? I don't. He goes, yeah, I remember. So I wrote the lyrics. So I went, oh, you did? Okay. You wrote the music off the night. And I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, you guys actually have a version of it on one of your albums called From Conception, but it's totally different than the one that I put out. I mean, the lyrics, the melody, it's all different. Just same music. So I'm thinking that was probably a song that was a contender for Breaking the Chains. And didn't make it.
Well, I was wondering that. Why didn't these songs make it? They're solid songs.
I think they're solid for the time. There's some heavy shit on them. Look, the two live songs, to me, I think still stand up. Liar and Prisoner, they're cool. They're totally cool.
Very.
I love them. I'm still proud of them. The lyrics are cool. The melody's cool. Liar is up-tempo. It's rocking. I don't know why. I don't remember that far back. All I remember is Jeff, or actually Mick and George, joined the band. Well, they didn't join the band. I hired them to come to Germany to come to do my album, because I was a solo artist. They weren't in the band. I just paid them to come to Germany and record the album.
Right.
Then after the album came out, it actually came out in Germany it was called Dokken, Breaking the Chains, a picture of a cover of me on the front. And, lo and behold, the album sold 35,000, 40,000 copies, which was really respectable, in Germany. And that's when I came back to America and said, guys, that album did really well. And they weren't doing shit. And I said, you want to make it a band? And they said, yeah. But that point, Juan had been playing with Rat a lot, and he decided to go with Rat. Even though, he stayed in the band for like almost 4 years. And we did the show, the Beat Club in Germany, and Juan was in the band. You can see him on the video, and then Juan left. So that was that. So we made it a band.
And the rest is history, so to speak.
The rest is history. We just didn't have a bass player. And we had just landed the Blue Oyster Cult Aldo Nova tour with us opening up for 30 minutes, and we have no bass player. I'm like, oh, shit. So I called up Mike Varney, who is a guy that owns Shrapnel Records, I think.
Yep.
I called Mike, and I said, dude, you know everybody. You know any great bass players? You see, I don't tell you. I go, no, I need a bass player that can sing. I need a singer, bass player. So he said, you should see this. Check out this guy named Jeff Pilson. Okay. And just by fate of God, the cosmic universe, Jeff was playing at a club like literally a mile from me. And George was staying at my house, and we hopped in the car, went down like literally a mile, and it was a club called the Shot of Gold. We walked in, and there's this, top 40 band with a chick singer who ended up becoming one of the Nasty Habits in Motley, and ended up marrying Mick Mars.
Okay, yeah.
So there's this, she ended up marrying Mick, and so there's this top 40 band. They're singing Little Red Corvette. So I couldn't get a handle on Jeff because they're singing all this pussy pop songs. But he was a good singer and a good bass player, and we were leaving in 3 weeks to do the arena tour, so we were kind of under the crunch. And I said, "You want to join Dokken?" And we talked about it, and he said, "I'm not sure," and he thought about it, and he actually wasn't really crazy about joining the band. I think he thought, we'll go do one tour and he'll be back where he's at. Because Jeff wanted to have his own band. He wanted to be a lead singer and have his own band. I get that. And so Jeff joined the band, and I think like 10 days after he joined the band, we did Breaking Chains video.
Good Lord. Well, it worked out, right? That was the right choice.
It worked out. The right choice. He joined the band, and 10 days later we filmed Breaking Chains, and 10 days after that we're on tour with Oyster Cult, playing in front of 10,000 people, and it all worked out. You know, sometimes it's a God thing, you know, a spiritual, you know, intervention that the cosmic universe just intervenes and makes everything work out, you know.
That's amazing. Under the gun is how to describe that for sure. That's amazing. And
Oh, yeah.
you got your start in Hamburg, so you're kind of like the Beatles.
Yeah, I always say in interviews now, if you're a Beatles fan, you already know that, you know, everybody's got this thing like, yeah, the Beatles were playing the Cavern Club in London and they got discovered. That's not true. You know, yeah, they played the Cavern Club, but they were going to Hamburg before they even had a record deal, and they were playing all these clubs in Hamburg.
That's right.
And that's the same clubs we played. And I was so excited to play the Reeperbahn and play the Top 10, the Star Club, Chicago Club. You know, I played all the same clubs the Beatles played. And it was so awesome, you know. But, you know, people who are not Beatles fans would not know if the Beatles really got their start. They had the big fan base in, you know, London, but they went to Hamburg for, you know, and did a whole tour. So we did the same clubs they did.
Right, they went to Hamburg as a 5-piece and came back as a 4-piece.
Yeah, I mean, they went there, they had an extra guitar player, and they had
Pete Best, right?
the other drummer on drums. Can't remember his name now.
Pete Best.
Can't remember his name. Yep, and Best left.
And Stu Sutcliffe left.
And, you know,
Yeah.
and Sutcliffe left, and they found Ringo, and, you know, it was all, again, fate. You know, Pete Best left, Sutcliffe left, they find Ringo on, you know, somebody said, hey, there's a guy named Ringo, check him out. And Ringo shows up and, you know, plays a couple songs. Okay, you're the guy. And the rest is history.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I felt like we were part of that. You know, we played the Reeperbahn, and the Reeperbahn, you know, in those days, it was pretty wild and woolly, man. You know, people don't realize in Germany, prostitution is legal.
Right.
You know, you can walk up to a girl and say, you want to have sex? And they go, how much? You know, you don't get arrested. And there were like hundreds of women walking around the Reeperbahn with fishnet stockings and teddies on, scantily clad, walking down the street, and you'd walk in these parking lots, and there's women just practically naked. And I'm like, and for me coming from California, I was like, man, this is way too weird for me, you know.
But it makes for great
And
storytelling.
they'd always go, I know. It was great. Plus, you know, I'd act like, I don't speak German. And they're like, that's okay, we speak English. And I'm like, oh, shit.
I can't even get away from them. Yeah.
But it was an interesting time. I remember we did that tour. It was over the holidays, and the record company didn't want to fly us back to L.A., so we were kind of just stuck in this really crappy motel room, except me. I had a girlfriend in Hamburg. Her name was Tura von Leipzig, and she had this beautiful apartment on the Ulster Lake. So I was living kind of large, you know. I had a chick with a beautiful hot apartment, and those guys were in a hotel, 2 to a room. And we were broke, and the record company, Rolf, didn't want to fly us home because it was only going to be for 10 days. And we had the TV show coming up, the B Club. So, you know, I'm living with Tura, and they're in a hotel, and I'm like, okay, well, it's the way it is, boys. And I'll never forget that it was just we were really toughing it out. And where was I going with this? So when Tura would leave for the day, go get a massage, the band would come over to her apartment, we'd raid the refrigerator, eat all our food, you know. And that's how rough it was. They had nothing. You know,
So all those stories about, you know, living off of bread and water, those are true.
Every band has that story. And I told the band, Tura just left. Get your asses over here and raid the refrigerator. And she'd come on and go, Don, where's the food? I bought all these groceries. They're gone. I'm like, I don't know.
That's wild. I always thought that was kind of legend rather than truth.
No, that's true.
Wow.
So Tura was just nervous, and you know, we only had 2 rooms. So it was 2 guys to a room bunking up. And the TV show was coming up. We couldn't go home. And I remember at the last minute, we were down at the Reaper Bond, and we met some guy. You know, he looked like a mafia pimp kind of guy. And he said, "Hey, I'm having a Christmas party, and all the pimps, you know, all the pimps are going to have a big Christmas party together and bring all their favorite hookers." And I'm not making this up. And he goes, "We're having a party for all the pimps and all their best bitches, and you guys want to play?" And I'm like, "We're like, they offer us like $750." I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Wow.
So we went and played for this pimp, you know, mafioso. I don't know if he's mafia, but he looked a little mafia. And you know, all the pimps showed up with their favorite hookers. They had a big party, and they're all dancing. And here's Dokken playing for them. But we only had, you know, Breaking the Chains album songs. And I remember the guy kept saying, "Do you have any ballads? Play a ballad. We want to slow dance." And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, "George, play some blues riff." You know, so he plays some blues riff, and I sing real slow and just make the words up on the fly, and so they could go out there and slow dance. And I remember years later, we're like, "Remember that? We played for all the pimps and all their favorite hookers, and we had to keep making up songs like ballads, more we want to dance." And I'm like, "Okay, another blues song. Just change it from the key of E to key to A." And I just make up the lyrics like, "Baby, baby, I miss you, baby. I'm so sad and blue. I really miss you, baby." And we just did that. We got $750 and a free dinner, so I was happy.
You couldn't write this shit.
You can't make this shit up, dude.
This is hilarious.